Yes, ma'am.
Well, she had a third presentation when she was the rising LCU star at STTI biennium when they were in Dallas, Texas. So I don't know how you missed that one. I remember. But hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Roney, and I will be facilitating this fabulous group. I feel like some of us are best friends because we've been to Ireland and Australia together, and one of them is following me for her capstone this semester, so extra time together. It's just great. So I want to just start out by talking about the global health experience that Dr. Leung and Dr. Ford and the other LCU faculty have developed for you guys as LCU students. What we were able to do is maximize the idea of experiential learning. Experiential learning really is when you're able to connect the dots and really have those aha moments of what you learned in the classroom, reading a textbook or heard about or read about once, and now it's the lived experience. And what we know as educators is once you have that experiential learning and you have the lived experience, it solidifies those concepts in their lives. And so to me, this entire trip, although at the conference we did go into breakout sections and hear people lecture from a podium, as a whole, the whole trip to me was very much an experiential learning experience for all of us, and a lot of bi-directional learning. And this is one of the best parts of nursing is when we get to reflect. And in reflection, especially if you have critical reflection, it's when we get to challenge our own thoughts and beliefs and really dig deep for what things really mean for us. And so that's what they're going to talk to us about and tell you how they learned and what they got out of this trip to Australia. You will see we did have fun, but we also had a very blessed experience full of learning. So enjoy the fun pictures as we talk serious. So starting with some questions. So I want to ask you guys, and anybody can chime in first, second, or third, but what did you learn during this global health experience that you brought back and applied to your nursing practice?
I'll start.
Thanks. Thanks, Nichole.
Something that I took home was probably my biggest take home was just how much nurses really have to offer the profession. We are leaders, and we are setting the stage for future research and development and studies, and we're the ones making the differences and taking it back to the bedside. And that was something, our role as a nurse was probably one of the biggest take-homes for me, or things that impacted my trip to Australia. And just seeing all the other educators and leaders and nurse researchers and the difference that they're making, it starts with us. And it doesn't have, you don't have to be, PhD at a world-renowned university. It starts in Lubbock, Texas. What we had to bring, what we had to offer was truly remarkable and made a huge difference and a contribution. So that was mine.
Thanks, Nichole. Now, I do know some fires got lit because I was getting texts in real time from breakout sessions, Stacey. So, Stacey, what excited you that you brought home or you haven't been able to implement because you've been on maternity leave, but I know you have it in your head you're going to implement it, so I just expect it to come.
Well, a couple of things. One thing that I thought was really interesting in preparing for my podium presentation, presenting our work, doing some background, looking at how evidence-based practice has really tried to evolve, and we've tried to put that at the forefront of healthcare. We've been doing this since the 80s or so. It's kind of been around, and so I went to one breakout session that really talked about implementing EBP competencies and how we teach that in the hospital setting. And I thought it is crazy to me looking back that we've tried so hard in so many different ways and different avenues to get that pushed out to the patient, yet it's still taking 17 years to get it done. And how is that possible? That these leaders across the world have been pushing that, and it really kind of hit home to me that I've got a part in this. Like she said, what we brought from Lubbock to this global conference, it stood up against what people are doing at Ohio State and some of these national world-renowned universities, and what we have it really can make an impact. And so it hit home personally that I've got work to do and I've got time to put on my calendar that can really save lives and impact our profession and what we do for nursing. So I was texting Jamie, like, we need to be doing this. We need to be really embracing what we're doing here, and the things that we've heard from our instructors, it's true and it matters, but it changes lives. That's the reason that we need this. So I don't know if that
Thank
makes sense.
you. Anybody else get anything that you brought home that you put into practice, that you got out of?
Well, we haven't necessarily put this into practice yet because we've been discussing how to integrate it, but with Clinical Academy, the core, whichever, 8 or 4 or 6, whichever,
I'm
the one that
4.
they do
I'm kidding.
their project.
Uh-huh.
And so kind of speaking to the EBP part of it, like I think for our nurses in the NICU, what we're going to do is they're going to have their project, but I'm going to help facilitate their project along the way because I think they need a mentor along the way, even though they're getting the in-classroom instruction. So to be able to have someone within the unit to help facilitate that and help them grow in that process
Well, that's
during
wonderful.
their, yes. So
You learned from Dr. Leung. It sounds like experiential learning with mentorship. Good job. Okay, I'll move on to the next. Oh, you have one? Go ahead.
Okay. So one of the presentations was about a nurse that was from Africa that came to Alaska, and she brought people into a group, like in a WIC type setting, and she provided education through like the group setting. And so how my program in the community is set up is we do one-on-one home visits, and so we provide education like that. So when we got back, we discussed it, and so now we're trying to set up some social type settings where the moms can come together for projects and then have that group setting for support. What they had seen in her research was that domestic violence and things like that, they were able to build a friendship, and then they were able to discuss those things more openly and then leave those type of relationships. So we're discussing implementing that.
Do y'all have anything you want to add?
The only thing I'm interested in is we work with LifeGift. LifeGift is part of UMC and part of the area for organ procurement. And so one of the breakout sessions I got to go see was their algorithm for using pressors on patients and using different methods to keep the amount of pressors that they're giving their patients in order to procure more organs for donation. And so I know this is in the early stages, and I think this was only a study out of San Antonio. So, but being that we are a facility working with LifeGift, I would like to see that go further and see if that actually makes it to other areas and see if it's applicable to us.
Very good. Trissi?
I'd have to say the thing for me would be, especially since I'm within nursing education, is the theme of innovation and then how to bring that to nursing. And that really, and this is my impression only, but perhaps innovation, we have a lot to add in our profession related to innovation and creativity and maybe thinking outside of the box to improve our profession. And so one of the sessions was about iPad only learning, and so there were things that I saw in that might be positives and things that might be negatives, but just to think about a difference in the way nursing education is was I felt important in my corner of the world.
Very good. Do you have anything to add, Dr. Long?
Well, your peers represented you very well by proxy, and I want you to know that. Their posters were highly looked at. They stood strong and proud by their posters and then their presentations and took questions like a champ. I mean, I just was so incredibly proud of these nurses, and we won't have time to talk about all of them, but they got some really fantastic feedback about the quality of their work. So even though you weren't there, in a way you were, because they were representing you in the degree that you have. So I just want you to feel proud of what you're learning, and they did a great job of standing up really on your behalf and representing West Texas and Lubbock Christian University in quality nursing.
Thank you, Dr. Long. So a second question now. What did you learn at International Research Congress that you brought back and shared with your peers? Because the first question was that you applied to your practice. Have you brought anything back and disseminated it further? Even if it's your own work?
I did, so my research was on the comparison of closure devices to manual compression, solely in the complication aspect, which is safer, which is something that really hasn't been looked at in the last 5 years. So I was able to bring my presentation back to my unit, and our chief cardiologist was very interested, and also the head of cardiology. They were both very interested in my work and have made actually some changes in their practice based on my data and collection in my IRR, which was really neat, to get to see people talk about my work, because sometimes we feel as nurses that we're just beneath someone, but really our work means something, makes a difference, and has a lot to offer. So that was really neat to get to present it in front of physicians and have it be noticed. And then also, I met some nurses from UCLA who had done some research collection on opiate abuse. And so I got to exchange some information about what UMC is doing on that initiative and what they're doing, and I got to bring some of the tools they're using back to my unit and show my coworkers and my management. So that was a neat experience to take someone else's information and bring it back to UMC.
And you shared it with who else?
I don't know.
Covenant Health?
Oh no, not that. I've
You
been taking
shared your
stuff everywhere, guys.
posters. I was like, yeah, she actually just followed me for her capstone, and our cardiac group was interested in her work, and so we've actually
Yeah.
shared her poster at Covenant.
Yeah.
And they've exchanged tools that they use in cardiac patients between UMC and Covenant. We
Yeah.
gave them something, they gave us something, and we're mixing and matching our stuff. So you've really disseminated
The
well.
patient wins.
The patient
Yeah, the
wins.
patient's winning, so that's what matters.
Anybody else come back and either disseminate further your work on vocati or EBR tool?
I would say the whole presentation thing kind of in general, my whole career I've thought I'm not one of those people that go and present and do something. That's those people. And so I spoke with my peers on just the confidence and the mentorship that it takes to do something like this, to present internationally. And so that was a really big deal for me to kind of step out of my comfort zone and know that I could do it. And so I'm one of the people now. But I realize what kind of support and help that we have here to be able to reach a goal like that. So it's been empowering, and I think I've been able to help some other people kind of take that next step, which just makes you want to take another step. So it's good.
Very good. Anybody else?
I did my poster, presentation was over neonatal hypoglycemia, and so what has come of that since then is kind of an arm of it that I did not present about in Australia, but the poster itself was regarding the transition from a lower level of care to higher level of care, so patients, neonates that are having hypoglycemia and then have to get transitioned to the NICU, and the impact that has on the families. So what we've initiated from that is that we're implementing the use of glucose gel in our nursery to help facilitate those hypoglycemia levels, and so in hopes of the baby not having to transition to higher level of care, and then that way you have mom-baby bond and relationship, and that doesn't get broken. So that was an arm of that, so I think that was it.
Very good. Are you looking at the results of implementing that?
It hasn't been
further?
implemented yet.
Oh.
It's
But
just about
knowing
to
you,
be.
you're gonna have data, right? And see that presented again?
Sure.
She's like, yeah. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You'll have to know Emilia. She's been the Covenant Health Nurse Researcher of the Year award winner. So actually, you were the first year, weren't you? So anyway, she is very gung-ho about research, like Michael is back there. So I'm sure she'll carry it forward. I don't even have to ask. Viviana, Trissi, anything to add to that question, or you want me to go to the next one? Okay, I'll go to the next one. What personal perceptions did you challenge through this global learning experience? Did you have any personal perceptions that got challenged? That's a tougher question because it's really introspective and deep. Did you have any way of thinking that got challenged and now you think differently, or anything you saw a different
I
way?
would say I had my first podium presentation, and I was so nervous to talk to these people that are, of course, I think since I'm in a smaller room, maybe no one is going to come to my session except my people here, which was not the case, because we all have the same problem of implementing EBP and the challenges and barriers that are there. And so, of course, I have a lot of people that come, and people that I've heard them speak throughout the conference with their PhDs and their alphabet soup behind their name. And so it was very challenging for me to stand up and think that I have something to say to these very well-educated people that are a lot older than me that have a ton of experience. But I survived, and I did have something to say. We did have great conversation, and that I thought was very helpful. And so that was my thing, that I can do this. I do have something to say.
Anybody else change your way of thinking? Challenge any beliefs?
I think the idea of I'm just a nurse, is like a big thing. Like you're just like, oh no, or I'm just a student, or like those things are challenging for yourself because you're just like, I'm not good enough to be with these people, and then you're like, well, wait, no, I am good enough to be with these people, and they respect me and I respect them, and they have questions and I can answer their questions when they ask me questions. So that was kind of a good thing for me.
And she went as one of the LCU STTI's Rising Stars representing LCU. So I don't know, was she the only Rising Star this time?
No, we had three.
Trissi,
Melissa.
Okay. I didn't ask. I guess somebody told me you.
So in the program, schools have the opportunity to recognize students, and our faculty looks at their work, and so we had three people in that program, that international program that says Lubbock Christian University Rising Stars in Scholarship, and two of them are up here. We would love to give that to everybody, but they only let you give a certain number, and we were proud of that. I want to just say one thing is, we're in a faith-based school, and sometimes it's easy to, to feel like, boy, how can I stand up next to Johns Hopkins or, a big school like that? But I just really want to encourage you all to stand proud. You're getting a quality education, and I guarantee you what you're getting here is right in the same realm as you're getting anywhere else. And never doubt what you feel passionate about. Others have the same interests, and this study, Vocati, is a grant-funded study, but it's very interested in faith, building faith, and how faith connects to moral development in youth. And what we really know is that when you can improve any health-promoting behavior, it pulls that individual forward in other health-promoting behaviors. But because this is an eclectic group, we weren't really sure anybody would come to our session. Vocati, theological understanding of moral development of youth, and it was the first presentation on a Saturday morning, and we had a great turnout. And there were people from large schools that came to hear about the moral development and the theological implications of youth, and they had questions for us. So I took home from that, never shy away what you feel passionate about. Stand firm and stand proud, because I guarantee you there are people that have the same question and interest that you have. They just may not be, may not have been in a position to say it.
Thank you, Dr. Roney. Okay, I'll move on to this next question, guys. What would you say to our peers about nursing scholarship globally versus locally? What difference did you see on the global stage?
I'll talk about this one. So when I was in school getting my bachelor's here and my master's here, I was extending my family at the time, so I didn't really have the time to take off to go. And I kept thinking, it's not that important. It's okay as long as I can get my bachelor's. I don't really need to take the global trip. So I went after, a year after I completed my master's is when I got to go to Australia. And coming back and reflecting on the trip, I really wish I had gone when I was here for my bachelor's, and I really wish I would have gone when I was here for my master's too, because it puts you in a different place. It takes you away from your day-to-day job, this Lubbock area, even Texas, and it puts you somewhere completely different, and you get to see everyone else's perspectives, bring in all the information, and then still have that reflection of they're just like us. Nurses there are just like the nurses here, and we're all working together across the world to do better. And so I think if you have the opportunity to go, you really should go. That's my takeaway.
And kind of like with what she's saying, the nurses in other countries and other parts of the world are struggling with the same issues that we're struggling with here in America. From New York to San Francisco to Australia to Ireland, all over the world, they're having the same problems with pushing out evidence-based practice. They're having the same problems with opiate abuse. They're having the same problems. The research we're doing here, like Dr. Leung said, we all have similar, there's always someone who's going to probably be interested in the same thing as you. And so it was neat to get into a room with a bunch of people and see that, oh, that's an issue there too. Or maybe if it's not, why? What are you doing different? So it was really neat to come together with a bunch of like-minded people to compare and contrast struggles and to find out that we're really not that different.
Anybody else? Y'all ready for me to move on? I can tell. I got quiet. I'm not going to let another awkward silence happen. Can you share an experience you will carry forward throughout your nursing journey? And I think every one of y'all should answer this one. What experience, and it can be anything, that you experienced there in Australia or even in flight, but that you will carry with you for the rest of your nursing career and the rest of your journey in nursing?
I think with me and Nichole can share it, as we met one of the professors from Mary University. Her name was Belkis, and we met her in just passing, just looking at our books, trying to figure out where we were supposed to go or what sessions we wanted to go to, and we just started talking to her, and she's talking to us, and this was her second time to present at STTI, and so she was giving us insight on, oh, well, when you come back, you have to do it this way because it'll be stronger this way. And then at the end, she was like, come to my session. She's like, I need y'all to come to my session to be there for support. And we're like, and we just met her. We met her like 10 minutes ago, we had met her, and we're just like, okay. And so in the morning, that was like our biggest thing, is we made sure we went to her presentation and sat in there and, you know, listened to her, I think her co-professor present on the subject as well. And then when we had our poster sessions, they came by and made it a point to come and see our posters. Yeah. And I think that was pretty cool. Like, that relationship, that was pretty cool to develop.
We found new cheerleaders for each other.
Yes.
Mutual.
Yeah, it was
support.
Great.
Trissi?
I think that it helped me to be aware of the person that I am and the spirit that I carry, that others are aware and watching. There was a professor from another school here in Texas, and she was there alone and needed a group to eat with. So she knew that she spotted our Lubbock Christian University posters, and then she sought some of us out. And so anyway, I thought that was special, that it's fostered. It starts with our professors, the spirit of inclusion and I don't know, maybe just a warmth and welcoming that this lady felt that she could invite herself in with us to join in. So I felt like that was a great thing to carry with me forward, no matter where I am, really.
And we even took her to dinner that night. She was a professor at Texas Women's University.
That's right. Yeah.
And interested in some of the topics that we had on posters, actually.
Yeah.
I think it was that or blood, something.
Hers was blood. She did her PhD.
Something that my group was working on here in Lubbock. So,
yeah.
Yay. Nichole.
Well, there's so many. Probably one of my favorite experiences probably was the people I got to meet. Like Trissi was saying, I think we made Lubbock proud and Texas. We were always bringing someone new to lunch with us or out to dinner with us, or Jamie was always introducing us to somebody. And so the networking was probably one of my favorite aspects of the trip. And it was almost flattering to see that people were interested to see what Lubbock Christian had to say, what I as a nurse had to say. My opinion mattered. So probably the networking and the meeting new people and the contacts I've made since then, that was, and the animals. Those were all my favorite things. Yeah.
And talk
The
about,
Sigma night was one of my
How
favorites.
about your business card? There's not a question that
Oh, okay.
will fit into, but it's good to share.
So I was right there with Viv and going into this thinking, I'm just a nurse, I'm just a student, you know, they're not going to want to come talk to me. Well, I was wrong. I had the privilege of going to, for my first global health trip, to go to STTI Ireland last year. And when I was there, several people asked me for my business card. And I would say, oh, I'm just here as a student. So I got the "you're not just a student" lecture a lot. And so this year I came prepared with business cards. And when I got asked if they could have my card or my contact, I very proudly handed them my very pretty business card I made. And people were really interested and really encouraging of my work and of networking with me. And I've actually gotten a couple emails from the Barry University professors and then from another lady I met from Florida, just networking, interested in future collaborations. You go in thinking you're just something and realizing you have so much more to give. You've come out really motivated. Being around people creates motivation in you to become more than what you think you can be. And so I left that experience incredibly motivated to do more than what I was comfortable doing here. So that was really special.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Laura?
I agree with everything that they've said, but probably one of my biggest things is the mentorship. I was really blessed to have the mentoring of Dr. Leung, and I think that that's really what moves nurses to the next step is mentoring. So taking the opportunity to mentor the people you work with, especially if you're in a leadership position or a management position, moving those nurses, not seeing them as a threat, but moving them to you or above you and beyond you is probably the biggest thing, the most important thing. So,
Sweet Stacey.
I went to one breakout session that talked about we can't let the important things that we do in nursing take over the urgent things and vice versa. So she talked about how you have to, maybe in a leadership role, you have to check your email every day. You have to go to these meetings every day. If you're at the bedside, things have to get done in a certain order to take care of patients. And we can't let those things become barriers to pushing our profession and our personal and professional development of ourselves in what we do and trying to learn more and things like that. Combat that because there's always going to be things to do. We've got to set that aside of time to grow and to mentor others in what we have to offer. So that was really impactful to me.
Thank you. Emilia?
I think one of my favorite standout times, and I don't know if there's a picture of it up here, was we went to a session and met the nurse, and I think someone talked about her earlier, but she was from Africa.
Oh, yeah, there's a picture.
Is it?
I took it off your Facebook page. Sorry, I put the PowerPoint together. My Facebook stopped a little.
Anyway, she was the most joyful spirit that I felt like I met there. She was, in her presentation, she was happy and excited and energetic, and everything that she talked about with her families that she was mentoring back in Africa was just so amazing. And it reminded me that the things that we do are so important that we need to share that joy with the people that we're trying to teach. And it doesn't matter what it is that we're teaching and how they can bring that to us. And I feel that, especially here at LCU, we get a lot of that from Dr. Ford and Dr. Long. There's always that joy and that sense of encouragement. And she just had this most beautiful spirit. I mean, and she just loved speaking about her families, and she even shared with us one of the dances. Yes, the dances that her young girls taught her, and then she even did a little bit of throat singing that they taught her, and it was just incredible. And you know, I know that she doesn't have the resources that we have even here just in Lubbock, Texas, but to be able to share information with people globally that need even just the basics. So even though some of the presentations and the posters were like big time, high level, crazy, you know, like wow, sometimes it's just the basics that we need to share with so many people that I think sometimes we might lose sight of that. The basics and the joy of sharing that knowledge, because she was definitely like that.
You want to add anything, Dr. Law?
I just want to tell everybody in the audience, I think I speak on behalf of all of our faculty. Dr. Ford's back there, but the others that can't be here, almost Dr. Brown back there, Dr. Harrison, Dr. Byers, you know, all of us, this is attainable for you. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, that's what somebody else does, but no, it's not. It's attainable for you. If you want to have this experience of presenting internationally, just put that as a goal while you're a student here, and we can help you make that happen. And I think you're hearing from them, these nurses, you have the clinical expertise right now. We'll just help you pair it with the academic structure that will propel you into this experience. And it really is life-changing. And I know many of you are thinking, nah, she's not looking at me. But I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you when I say this. And we believe in you, and there are so many stories out here in this audience that can testify that you're right, you're where you never thought you'd be, and I'm telling you, you're not where you're going to be. So think of yourself that way and take the opportunities, seek them out. Go see Dr. Ford, go see Dr. Harrison, Dr. Byers, come see me. We'll help you get there. And it will change the way you think about yourself as a nurse and what you can contribute. So I just want to encourage you. You can do it.
Thank you. Our cheerleader and mentor here. So the next question, what would you say to nurses who do not think past the floor they work on? Those people that just come to work their shift, and they don't really think about nursing anywhere else or after that. What would you say to them?
Not to do that. Because the thing is if you don't think outside of your floor, people outside of your floor are already thinking for your floor. And things that they're doing, that they're trying to achieve, will go to you where you work. You might not think that it does, but it truly does. Like a lot of the things that we implement in our staff and with units and things like that in our hospital have been things that they've been brought from research that's been done at other hospitals and been done at other facilities, and that says this is best practice, this is what we're doing, this is what we should be doing. So now we have to do it. So I think to open up your mind to see what's out there is a good thing, because maybe what you're thinking might be better what they're thinking, and that's what we're going to be doing, in short reality is what we'll be practicing as nurses. So
Anybody else?
I would say can't wait till it hits home. So I have a baby about 5 weeks old now, and so right after she was born, she was 4 days old, and we went back into the hospital with fever to rule out sepsis. And I would say, I've heard Emilia and Jamie talk about sepsis and with babies and EBP and things like that, and it's not until I was on the other side that it hits home and you're helpless and you're relying on the experts to have pushed that information forward, that it hits home and it makes you realize how important on what we're doing, and that every single time that we get the blood cultures and we do them correctly, we do them timely and stuff, when you see it happening, you realize it makes a difference, and we've got that responsibility to jump in and be a part of that. So.
Anybody
Yes, I know,
else?
don't cry.
Good job.
I would say if the common goal is to improve patient care, there's not a reason to not go outside of your own little bubble, because there's so much to offer outside of that.
And it reminds me of Stacey's comment of, I wasn't one of those nurses. She always thought I was that nurse. She will tell you that too. But she's now owning she's one of somebody like me. But really, are there that nurse out there? Are we really all, like Trissi just said, after the same goal? And I think when we stop seeing our PhD nurse scientist as that nurse, or those of us that have been nursing for 30 years as that nurse, but whatever reason it is, we're all really after the same thing, and that's best patient outcomes. So I love that insight, Trissi. Thank
Well,
you.
Jamie, and I would say thinking that you got where you got on your own, like you just walked there, and realizing you jump on other people's shoulders and you walk together hand in hand to achieve some of these goals and aspirations and stuff. So that's been huge for me.
You're an amazing nurse, my friend. Anything else? Okay. If asked why you chose to attend International Research Congress, what would you tell others? Why did you choose to go? And then why did y'all choose to go back? That's the end of
Well, I think I said this in our Ireland one last year, was I've been to NTI, and so I've been to conferences before, and I wanted to see what was different. What was different from here in the States versus somewhere internationally? What kind of research, what were the differences between both? So for me, it was like a compare and contrast kind of thing, like figuring out what was different. And to go back, honestly, I would have never have ever said, oh, I'm going to be a presenter. Like, never would I've ever thought that. But you do, and you go, and it's great. Like, you're thinking, okay, now I'm like, I was never interested in research, but now I am. So I'm like, okay, it puts like that bug in you that they'll talk about the little bug, the research bug that you never knew you had. I've gotten to like research, and I kind of want to know more about it in that perspective. So, I think I've tried to help Jason and Katie, who are coworkers of mine, like kind of, oh, well, have you done this yet? Have you done that? Oh, you got through the easy part. So I've kind of mentioned all those things as they go through research, because I've gone through it. So I think STTI was just a really good eye-opener to things that you might realize you didn't necessarily like, but you do.
Anyone else want to take that on? What would you tell others about why you attended?
I didn't want to miss the opportunity. The opportunity was there, and I didn't want to regret not going. So.
Very good.
I think for me, it was like God chose me, because I never considered going until Dr. Leung first and foremost encouraged me. So then I submitted that abstract thinking, okay, yeah, did it, so I can say to Dr. Leung, yes ma'am, I did it, it's complete. And then getting that email saying your abstract was accepted, and I was like, what? Okay. So that, it was, because again, I think you all may feel the same way, like, sure, what I write is like, I don't write well, or it's not important, or who's going to even care who bought, but they do, and and it happened, and so it was awesome. I'm so blessed to have gone. It was amazing, and then made so many new friendships, and it was fantastic.
We're like family now, y'all. It's okay. Hey, I think this is a good question for you to share with why you take so many students on these trips with you.
Oh, because it makes me happy. Oh, my cup is just filled up and running over when I see students succeeding, and it's what makes me tick, is to see students excel. And I think others have said this. Let me tell you, if you guys look at us, me and old Dr. Ford, we're old now. You look at us and you think a certain thing, but let me tell you, you just cannot know the faculty that have helped us. You just cannot know the people that poured their lives and their hearts into us and put up with our rants and forced us to grow. They stretched us and they loved us enough to make us grow. You know, they loved us too much to let us slide past, slide under the radar. Oh no, no, no. They invested in us. And it changed us, didn't it, Cindy? It changed us. And so the very best thing we can do for those that poured themselves into us is for us to pour ourselves into you. And we just love them, don't we, Dr. Ford? We just love them.
And I tried to help them network like you would have. Not quite as good as you, Dr. Ford.
She's a genius.
But, you know, when you go with Dr. Ford or myself, we try to introduce you to the key people, the nurse leaders that are out there. That's kind of our forte. We're the networkers of the group. So I did try to take your place a little. You know who they are too, so we did. One last question as we're running out of time. This isn't on the list, so you're not prepared for it, but a lot of y'all are taking population health right now, right? So let's talk about some health disparities that we saw that in South Africa, I'm going back a trip, 2-3 trips, in Australia that really relate to what we see in West Texas. Because I think it's kind of obvious who that group of people were in Australia. So who were they?
The Aboriginals.
The Aboriginals. I mean, there was no question the Aborigines, most of them, I was watching lots of TV there, they were taken away from their families as kids. One little girl, when she just went to go get some water, they were taken away because they didn't think their parents were able to raise them, and they thought they needed to be in school. And so they thought they had the best interest of them at heart, and many of them are just now going back and trying to find their Aboriginal roots. But how would you compare that journey and that struggle of this population of Australia to what we see right here in West Texas? Are there any comparisons or contrasting that we could do? Can you think of any? I mean,
Maybe a little bit of a comparison to the migrant children that are here, you know, that are traveling with their parents as they go to different areas to do cropping and things like that. They're not always in and out of school, or they don't have consistent health care.
and did they have their own language, their own dialect? I don't know how to describe their accent.
Like a twang.
Yeah, it was a twang. Yeah, it was not Australian. The Aboriginals did speak with a little bit different dialect. Any other comparisons or contrasting of this disparate population that we could kind of get insight and bring back to West Texas?
Just a observation. They've, as a culture, I think they've gone from outcasting the Aboriginals to embracing them and their culture and their heritage recently. And I think that's something that maybe we should do a better job of, is embracing our culture and our heritage and all of our diversity. I know they spend a lot of time talking about their Aboriginal roots and the struggle, the journey, embracing the culture. And so I think here in West Texas, maybe we could just take a lesson about maybe embracing all of our culture. And that means everything, not just our privileged little bubble.
And I think their storytelling reminded me of Native Americans a lot. They told a lot of stories in art and drawings and dreams. They believed everything came to them in dreams. I thought that was interesting.
You bought them all.
I bought them all. They're hanging in my house.
How many didgeridoos did you buy?
Oh, I bought 2 didgeridoos.
Just
Well, no,
Well,
what's a
tell
lot for
Deborah.
other people? Yeah, the didgeridoo they're playing. I have a 30-year-old son, and that's all he wanted from Australia was a didgeridoo. And I didn't even know what it was. I had to Google it. I skipped a session to go find it. Got lost in downtown Melbourne.
And try getting that through customs.
Oh yeah. We'll talk about didgeridoos. I hope that kid likes that didgeridoo. He lives in Portland, Oregon. I'm sure he loves it. Anything else? I kind of think of the vastness of Australia too, and maybe how rural we are in West Texas a little bit with the Aborigines too. I hated not to bring population health into this, not that we don't have one expert in that field on the panel, but it's kind of like when you go to these places. I know when I went to Ireland, I saw all my grandkids in every face, and I could see that Irish heritage just because everyone looked like a grandkid to me. And I think, you know, you see your own heritage in places that you travel. So any last minute thoughts before Elaine wraps us up?
One thing on population health that struck me so hard is that, you know, Australia is a big, vast country. It reminds me of Texas, you know, all that rural space. They have significantly lower mortality rates than we do of all the leading 5 causes of death. Lower cardiovascular disease, lower everything associated with that, blood pressure, stroke, lower cancer rates, lower everything. And they have the same sort of issues that we have. And I puzzled the whole time there. I thought, how are they doing this? And I still don't know the answer to it, but one of the challenges that it left me with is that, you know, if anybody can solve that, we can. Nurses can. Really, we need to have a voice in the reform of our national healthcare system, because we can be part of the answer to reducing these. If they can do it in Australia, we can do it in Texas. We can do it in the U.S. And it really stuck in my craw that we weren't doing better and that they were beating us on all that. We have more resources. We need to step up to the plate as nurses and get more involved.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think we're ready, Elaine.
Okay, well, I won't take a whole lot more time, but I wanted to point out that, and you heard what everyone else said, and I was up here last year doing the same thing, and so I feel, you know, I go, yes. So everything that they've said, I emphasize and reiterate, but I will tell you right now that if you're who's a bedside nurse in here? What I'm learning right now in my career is I'm a writer right now for magnet recognition. And if you work UMC, you've already gotten it, but we are working on our application. And so many of the examples that we have to show, there are 62 different standards. You have to show improvement in outcomes, patient outcomes, or nursing outcomes. And so this kind of falls right in where magnet is, and that's the expectation that the public, you know, public looks at us as working at the highest level and bringing in what is the best evidence and practice. And so we're struggling at our own institution because it's hard for bedside nurses to think about something that they're really passionate about, and getting with groups and being mentored and learning what can I do to help change outcomes. And so I encourage you all to figure out, it's easy to get into a rut, is it not? I work at the bedside. It's easy to get into that rut of going home, you know, cooking dinner, going to bed and getting back up and starting all over and taking care of your 4 or 5 patients. But if you can, join in Research Council if you have one at your work. That's where I initially started and got to where I went to Cape Town, and also in Ireland, Research Council, Research Academy, whatever you can tap into and let yourself kind of dive into something that you would love, because that's where we're headed, is bringing evidence to the bedside, and that's what magnet is going to mean for public, is that you are bringing, and I work as the chair of our policy council, and so we've already been able to bring things that people have gone and looked at what the evidence showed, looked at the literature, done an integrated review forward through poster sharing, and been able through councils to adopt different processes. So that's how things get changed. If you don't think you're a leader, you need to rethink that, because every nurse in here is a leader, and we have a responsibility to our patients, our families, to be at the top of our game and be excited about our career. I will tell you that we have an alumni association, and sometimes you think, how in the world can I afford to go anywhere, much less across the ocean? But when you're an alumni, you can make an application. These gals have been fortunate, and I was on the receiving end too of being able to go. A lot of my airfare was covered, and so was theirs this last time. So there's many ways. Your employer, I work for Covenant, so my employer helps with registration, and Sigma helps with some funding. So there's ways out there to go. And again, one thing I can say is that it will elevate you. It will elevate you both personally, professionally. You will think very different, see yourself very different than you've ever seen yourself before if you ever get a chance. And it doesn't have to always be international. There's poster presentations locally, in the United States. Anytime you can go to a big event and present, share your knowledge, please do. Please do. Don't just hold it in and not let your light shine and let people know what you found. So that's kind of how I'll wrap it up this evening, and we're glad you're all here. I'm excited you're all here. I know faces out here, and us older people will be retiring before long, and we expect you at the bedside to help take care of us to the very best of your ability and knowledge. Thanks for being here.
So guys, please don't forget to sign in.